Hello everyone, Zellerant here, and today I'm going to be making a new tier list for Girls Frontline 2. It's been quite a while since I've done this. Now, I'll only be making this tier list utilizing the units currently available in Global, even though it has all of the units on CN here. Now, when it comes to the tier list though, when I am rating a character, I may take into consideration some of their future value as well to the team. So someone that may have a little bit lesser value now, but may have future value in the future, they may get rated a little bit higher than they may be currently in Global. And that's just because when it comes to picking poll priorities, you want to think of how valuable they will be in the future as well, because you want to plan around your future units you're going to pull, since we have so much future knowledge available to us. So with that, let's just go ahead and get into it, and let's see what my if you agree or disagree with my thoughts here. So we'll just kind of go left to right, and we're going to jump over the CN units, which is pretty much everybody, I think, here. Pretty much all the way up to Meish TX. We don't have any of these units. So Meish is the one we currently have out. I think she is a great unit. Pairs extremely well with the Klukai Paridia combo. But one thing is that Klukai, especially at V0, Klukai is fine on her own V0, V3, or V6. She is just amplifying the damage Klukai can provide, as well as making Paridia even better alongside Klukai, making her damage do corrosion and then all the buffs that she applies. So she's very, very good in that aspect. But one of the negatives to her is the fact that you don't really need her. I mean, if you have a V6 Klukai, she can do everything. And Meish is just bringing up that damage, which is very valuable on Gunsmoke. I will say that. It is very good for doing Gunsmokes with your Paridia, Klukai, and Meish. But when it comes to all other content, not as necessary. But I do really like that she brings in that ability to convert a damage type, which has a lot of future value. We don't have any other characters that really can take advantage of it, other than Lada, I think, for example. But if we ever have another AoE of any element that does support actions, then Meish can convert it to corrosion, bringing a lot of value to them. So I think Meish is actually an A there in that, just because of that value alone. I really like future value in that kind of capacity, even though we may never get a unit that synergizes with. But those are one of those things when I look in characters that are must pulls for me, in a lot of cases, it's those supports that have that future capacity and are going to be pretty hard to power creep to a certain extent, because if you're able to convert elements, that's always great there. So we'll kind of stick her there. Then we go right to the next unit, and I think everybody's going to know what I'm going to pick here. Klukai is the absolute current best in the global version. Now, one thing is, I will say, if you're a person, like I went for V6 Klukai, and I know there's a lot of people, even if you're free to play, that decide to skip a lot so they can get V3 or even potentially V6, and I think Klukai is good for that, and I know a lot of people are going to probably want to, if they weren't able to pull off getting V3 or V6 on this last one, they're going to look to get it on their rerun. I will say one thing that would be, think about before you do that, is Springfield, in my opinion, is more valuable to put more dupes in than Klukai. Even though Klukai is badass, my favorite character in the game up to this point in CN, if you're going to hyper invest in a character, I would take Springfield over Klukai if you could only max dupe one of them. Now, I'm going to most likely attempt to get Springfield's max dupes as well alongside Klukai, but I've been spending a decent amount of money in this game. So if you're someone that's not doing that, then Springfield is going to be your better bet, just being a support, while Klukai is still just a DPS. But even then, even at V0, Klukai is hands down S tier. She can do all content great. She's just a little bit weaker on the, well, I won't say a little bit, quite a bit weaker on bosses if she doesn't have the dupes up to V3. So that's the only thing, and the only negative to her, but she's just so fun to play in that, and that's one reason that I put her in S tier, and I think pretty much everybody will put her in S tier at this point. Okay, and then we have Jahoy, we don't have yet, so the next one here is going to be Makiato. Makiato is our first, like, big DPS that we got in the game. So we had Suomi first with Ulrid, and then right after that we got Makiato, and which pretty much made it where she was a must pull for a majority of people just to get that big damage dealer. She did a lot of single target damage, especially if you went for her V1. Her V1 makes her very, very good, and she still stands pretty good in CN at this point. One of the negatives is we just got Robella on the CN side, And she's a little underwhelming in terms of not bringing Ice back up to the meta in terms of that damage and capabilities. There's a lot of great things with them on the CC side of things, but the damage is a little bit subpar compared to what the other teams can do at this point. But Ice is not fully complete at this point either, though, so it's a little bit tricky there. But on global right now, so Klukai is our like biggest damage dealer in terms of clearing all content except bosses. But ultimately, we really don't have anybody else on global that is like the main single target damage dealer. I mean, we have Diane, who's really good as well. She can kind of get around and hit enemies from the back, but she can't come close to Makiato's damage. Tolo is still great on damage, but she's slowly starting to fall off as we get more units. She can do a lot of damage. And then you have, we are going to be, well, we'll talk about the other ones, but we have the burn team units as well. Those are kind of the mainstay big damage dealers outside of Klukai and Makiato at this point. But with that, since we don't have that much in terms of the damage dealers yet, because we still have a lot to come, she is currently, in my opinion, still on the A list, on the tier list. She could be, you could probably consider her S currently on global because of the value she brings, but her future value really seems to be falling off right now as Ice is kind of fallen off, but that's, I mean, that can always change in the future. So for now, I'm going to put her on A because she is great on that damage dealing side for the Gunsmoke. And let's see, so we don't have Janju yet. Lena we don't have yet. So Senesi. Senesi is the burn sustain that we got. So she's the other sustain that we have outside of Suomi. So if you need a sustain and you don't have Suomi, she's going to be the go-to. One of the biggest problems is we don't really need sustain, at least on the elite level, because we do have healers outside of the elites of Suomi and Senesi. And that's where Senesi's kind of falls off on that capacity. Senia is better as a buffer for your teams at this point. Senesi will get better with her common key and will surpass Senia on the burn team at that. But right now in global, she is not. And a lot of people would say you should skip her because there's a lot of other value you can get in units upcoming, like Vector and then Yuhi and all that. So you don't need the sustain for Gunsmoke Frontline. And someone like Senia can do it good enough for all the other content as well. So that kind of reduces a lot of her value. Now, she's a character I like. I got her because I want to fully build into my burn team. Once she gets her expansion key, she does get significantly better. And she actually has some sustain that can be very useful for any single hard-hitting attack, simply because she has an invulnerability in one of them with the expansion key. But as of this point, she's going to be an easy skip for most people just because we have options in the sustain. You don't really need it too much on the content. It's not hard enough on anything outside of Gunsmoke, and the damage on Gunsmoke isn't enough to warrant it. I like the character. I like the burn team, and if you're going to invest in the burn team in the future, she is a pickup. But for now, I think she's still a little bit lower value because Senia can do it just as good at this point, and not that much worse even when she gets her expansion key. So I'll put her on the C tier for now. Then we got Diane. Diane was, I really liked Diane when she came out. She was kind of my carry on the PvP side because she just made it where you could turn your brain off a little bit more when she came out because you could get behind the enemies, kill them, and then put her behind cover. So it was really easy to trick the AI utilizing her with her high movement and ability to flank the enemies and then also take cover. And so the PvP became kind of brain dead. Then Klukai came around, and now it's even more brain dead. You just go up there in S2 and kill all the enemies. So Diane's value on the PvP side for me, for those that care about trying to get in the top 50%, it kind of fell off there. And when it comes to all our other damage dealing units, she is still pretty subpar. Physical is still in that situation, even on CN, where their damage is still, they still really need a core damage dealer to elevate their damage. Diane does decent damage now on CN, which when paired alongside like Yuhi and Faye and the other ones, they can do decent damage, but they're still just noticeably behind everybody else in element wise. Even Ice, I feel like Ice is still better than physical at this point, and they just got Robella, which makes sense. They should be better, but I think I'm hoping they're going to get a big boost here. I'm looking at someone like Satmod or that to be physical and then just be a meta level dominating member, and then you're going to see all the physical units, in my opinion, move up because of their synergies with that physical team. But for now, her value, I'd say she's definitely above Senesi, kind of that B tier, because she is a damage dealer, and she can do good damage, and it can be useful in some of the content where you want to get around the enemies, be able to hit them in the back, but still take cover. So I'll put her on B for now because of that alone, being a damage dealer, and damage is still king in this game. Next one we have is Dush. So Dush is the ice support, and now on CN, Dush is getting help along with Robella, and they kind of work together in buffing up ice. They don't overlap each other, which is the one thing that I was afraid of when you kind of saw all of the buffing that Robella did, making Dush seem to look like she lost value, but that's not the case, and they can both work together in buffing the team. And so Dush, if you're still wanting to go heavy into the ice team, Dush is going to be a unit you definitely want to get. And her dupes, if you max dupe her, she really has a good max dupe. Biggest problem is, I mean, there's just, if you're going to max dupe something, there are way better options like Klukai, Springfield, Leva that are going to be way better investments when it comes to getting dupes. But she is the core to the ice team. And, I mean, for right now, I'd definitely say she is above Diane, but still kind of that B tier. A good pickup if you want to heavily invest in Makiato. Because remember, this game is still a waifu game. If your favorite character is Makiato, you're definitely going to want to get your Dush to support her on the ice side. And then eventually you're going to want to get your Robella. But in terms of the overall, her value, I think she is B tier in that capacity. Alright, the next one is Ulrid. I have Ulrid, and the only thing I've really done with her, though, is get her common key at this point, because she has a very good common key. But the blade units or melee is just not there on them. I mean, now she had the advantage of being able to go through walls, so there was some of the content, like the gold ones, where she would excel really good at, where she can go through the walls, they get to them a lot easier, or crossing areas that had gaps with her skill. But guess what? We have another unit that can do that as well that everybody should pick up, and that is Klukai with her ultimate, who can pretty much do the same thing. And so you lost a little bit of that value from them, and then other than that, they're very squishy. They're having to generally put themselves out in the open or too close to the enemies and they'll get flanked and die quite easily. And so with that, I think Ulrid, I mean, I haven't used her enough to really get to test her, but I think she is down there on that lower value of C alongside Senesi. Just because they really need to buff melee in this game. And it's almost like they've abandoned it on CN side since we haven't seen any since her. She's the only one that's elite at this point. But who knows? There may be some changes coming, and then she may go up in value at that point. But for now, she is pretty low. Next one here is Suomi. Absolute busted on the sustain side. And on the CN version, she became even more broken on the sustain side with her expansion key, plus more buffing to the ice team. I think everybody pretty much has her because she was the unit that came out with us on the global side, and she carried us through the story because of how great her sustain is. One problem we have now, which is going to make me actually not put her on S tier, is sustain is losing its value. At this point, I use my Suomi. Of course, I use my Suomi in all my content that I don't need to really build a complete team around because, I mean, she is the best sustained and she makes it where you can do things brain dead with automatic. But as we go on, especially with Gunsmoke and that, she will lose her value outside of Ice Team when you don't really need that sustain. And for that reason, I'm going to put her in A tier because, I mean, sustain is not as important as it used to be at this point. But she is still the best, even on the CN side, and she's only going to get better on that capacity. So if we get some harder content that requires it, she's going to be your go-to on that. Next one here, make sure I don't skip anyone. Papasha. Papasha right now for Gunsmoke, S tier. I mean, just alone on the Gunsmoke, if you have your Papasha available, you want to bring her with your best team so she can give us that defense down on the boss. But other than that, she pretty much loses her value everywhere except maybe I could say on the boundary, because if you want to do two teams on that, generally it makes it a lot quicker and easier in the Tarkov mode or boundary push, because you need that SMG user. And if you do two teams, one of them is going to be Suomi and the other one's going to be Papasha. At least that's how it's worked out for me at this point. So she's good there as well, but I don't use her anywhere else outside of those two things, Gunsmoke and that, because she just does not do the damage or bring the value. Her value is her robot and being able to have that extra extra unit on the field to trigger the 6-unit debuff on the bosses. And so with that, that's her only value. So I would actually put her in, I'm going to say high B tier, just because of that. I mean, the Gunsmoke is important to be able to get yourself into that top 5% for all the rewards. And so she has that importance, but outside of that, on any other content, you're not really going to want to bring her. Now, her gun's really good, and we're starting to see it be very good for other units. Leva really likes her gun as well. It's not that much worse than Leva's personal gun. And you can say the same thing with Robella, is that Svarog is, I mean, I think they even put it on the spreadsheet that it's better than her own personal weapon, which I'm going to probably disagree with that once we actually get to her release. But yeah, Papa Shaw, I think, is the top of the B tier simply because her value in the Gunsmoke, which is kind of the area where you need your most, like, that's where you should have your meta teams. So that brings her up there. Vplay, I mean, I've got a lot of dupes of her. I've been, most of my losses on the 50-50s have been to her. I think I'm at like V2 or V3 now. But Vplay she was really good in the beginning for being able to get that, those couple of debuffs that helped through the boss mode in that. But other than that, I have not used her anymore. Now, I've started having now I get every unit in the game, so I don't have a hard time like building teams at this point because I have enough elite units for that. If you're a free-to-play, Vplay is a unit that everybody has, and you may not have near as many elite units I have, especially if you wanted to save a lot for Klukai and you skipped a majority of units. Well, Vplay has got a lot of value to you in that capacity because I'm going to put her pretty much above most, if not all, I say not all, but most of the SR units. And in that case, that means you're still going to want to bring her to your Gunsmokes if you just don't have that many other elite units. And with that, I'm just going to go ahead and I'll put her right next to Papa Shaw. I think she's great right now if you don't have a lot of units, but once you start getting full teams together, once you get your burn team coming together, you get your hydro team, if you have Klukai in your corrosion team, I mean, she just falls off like a brick, and she will be down in D tier soon enough. But yeah, since she's free to play and everybody has her, that's kind of the main thing. Everybody has her, so she's more useful for people to utilize. Now, you're not gonna I would not target her on your standard banner pull, which actually, because of that, let me just move. I'll put her at the bottom of B tier. She's great to use if she's the only thing you have, but other than that, and not really more than that. So I think bottom of the B tier or top of C. She's she's kind of that in between. She's not D tier yet. D tier will be once we get like all the units CN has. But right now, still valuable. If you're a new player, you're gonna want to use her until you kind of start getting your teams put together. Let's see, Paridia. Man, this one's gonna be biased just because I'm really liking the corrosion team. Paridia, for me, it's going to depend on your teams. With Klukai and Meish, definitely top of the A tier. Without Meish and Klukai, she's D tier. I mean, you don't need that. Her AoE's kind of sucky. You can't really utilize it. She's very bad to use in that capacity without it. But with Klukai and Meish, that single target damage, like, she's an AoE unit that does really good single target damage with the Meish Klukai combo. Even without Meish, she's really good with Klukai. While her damage is a little bit subpar without the Meish, one thing she does bring is she can basically make it where a higher, like a V3 or V6 Klukai can go every single turn on their ultimate. And that alone makes her really, really good. Not just the fact that she can also dish out damage. And with the fact that most platoons have at least somebody in there, if you're an active one with full members, they should have at least a V3 or V6 that you can borrow. Pretty much everybody has that in their platoons from what I can tell. And that brings her value up even if you don't invest heavily into your Klukai because she's going to be really good on the Gunsmoke. And so for that, I'll put her behind Meish. I'll put her at the bottom of A tier though. Simply because outside of that team, she's not good. But with that team, she's really, really good and a top unit in my opinion. And then we have Mosen Nagant. I think she is a good unit once you start getting dupes heavy onto her, V4 and above. Without that, she just fell off like a brick. And I don't want to go too heavy into using the dupes as a reason to move their value up. It's kind of, Klukai stands on her own on V0. So even though Klukai has amazing dupes, she's good on V0, which is why she is still S tier. Mosen Nagant without dupes, she's just kind of bad at this point. She can't really surpass anyone else too much. And she's very situational on being able to trigger her support action. But because you can select on the standard banner the unit you want to target, if you really like Mosen Nagant and you're planning around the electric team, which we know pretty much the electric team at this point, which is the core is going to be Andorus, Leva, and Elena. Those three are going to be a core to the electric. Then the other two are going to be basically a choice between the ones that are left. Belka, Mosen Nagant, and Jianju. And Jianju is going to need even more investment, or well, need a lot of investment just like Mosen Nagant, but she's a limited unit, so it's going to be very hard to get that investment in it. And for that, I'll put her at B tier. I actually put her above Vplay, because if you do have her, I put her value more than Vplay. And I'm actually going to just move Vplay down the top of C tier, because yeah, I think B tier's a little too friendly to her at this point. She's got her value, but she's just falling off at this point, and she's just a free unit everybody has, so that's why she might still be getting some value at this point. Next unit, Sabrina. Everybody, I believe, should have V2 of her. Came out in December. So, what, December, January, February. And I think everybody has V1 about to have V2. I got a dupe of her, so I'm kind of off. So, I think I'm at V2. So, everybody has at least V1 of Sabrina. She is a good unit right now, and I think she's going to be great for free-to-plays when it comes to building that mono Hydro team once we get Springfield and Tolo, and you really want to go invest in them. And since she's free, everybody's going to have her over time, and she's really, really good at the PvP side once you start getting her dupes. But at this point, because we're only at the V1, V2 side, she still has a little bit less value in that capacity. Now, I haven't really used her too heavily at this point because I have every unit in the game, so I have a lot of options when it comes to my building my teams. But overall, she's in the beginning, she was a mess to deal with in PvP, but PvP has just become Klukai Central, where Klukai one taps anybody with her S2 if you play it correctly. So she lost a lot of value there, but overall, great. I mean, having a shotgun unit is really useful with the Battle Pass shotgun, and being able to apply that stability loss too if you get multiple dupes of it, which is another value she can bring. So I think overall, she's definitely in the B tier along them. I think she's below Dush and Diane, above Mosen Nagant for sure. I mean, maybe around the same as Diane. Definitely a B tier, though. I'll just kind of put her in there in the middle. This is tough. This is not easy. I'm kind of just going off of my knowledge of the characters, and that I'm not trying to do that statistical analysis and write up like you'll see on the other ones, like you see with Pridewin and Sephi's Loot and Waifus tier list. So don't take this one to heart. It's just my kind of thoughts on the characters. Tolo is still a great damage dealer at this point, and she's starting to fall off. And as we get more damage dealers, like if we get like into the electric a little bit more here after our next current units, she's going to fall off a little bit more, and then she's going to shoot. She will shoot up all the way to S tier once Springfield releases. Because you can get that V1, which is going to be the advice from pretty much everyone to get V1 Springfield. And then Tolo with her expansion key just shoots way up here to S tier, but she's not there yet. She's still really good though, and she still does really good damage at this point. And because of that future value, she is a character, even though she's starting to fall off now. When it comes to selecting a character to target on your standard banner, if you already have your QJ at V3, Tolo is the other one that I'd say you'd want to invest in for V2, and then eventually a V4 and above. So I will put her at the top of A tier because of that. Right now, if you consider like right now, maybe bottom of A tier, but she's gonna, and then she'll fall into B tier until we get Springfield. But for now, because of that future value, and I think it's worth it to continue investing into her at this point, so you're prepared when Springfield comes out, she's gonna go to A tier for me. And then we have QJ. I mean, everybody probably knows this one. She's an easy S tier at this point. Burn team is starting to come together. I mean, a lot of people, now that we've had the selector on the standard banner, a lot of people are starting to get their V3 QJs. So once you get to that, and she can trigger Sharkry's support actions as well easily with hers, just so much damage from her. I mean, the burn team, right now it's not doing more than my corrosion team on the platoon boss. And that's because that one's got my Meish T, and I'm borrowing a Klukai, while the burn team, I'm using my personal Klukai, which is a little bit weaker than the one I borrow. but it comes a little bit close there. And Burn Team's not complete yet. That's the thing. QJ's S tier now, and she's going to become broken S tier once we get the rest of the Burn Team. And for that, she's easily S tier at right now. And then with that, you kind of have your other ones. Senia, I don't really use her. I really need to build her because she does have a lot of value. Since we don't need a heavy sustain on the platoon boss, I just don't want to invest in her. But I'd say I'd put her probably just because she has the buffs. She's going to be better than Senesi at this point in the Burn Team. So I use my Senesi over her, but she's definitely better than Senesi if you invest in her. So I'll put her at the bottom of A tier because you want her in the Burn Team at this current point as your sustain / an extra buffer there, alongside if you're pairing it with like a Klukai or that. And the next one, Sharkery. Sharkery's right up there, S tier. If there's any SR that you want to invest in, which you really can't because you can't really target the SR units on the limited banners. She's been on quite a few of them though, so I think people are starting to get a lot of dupes of her. But paired with the V3 QJ, she just does so much good damage. And then when she gets her expansion key, she gets to take the advantage of V1 Vector, just like QJ, even more broken. Sharkery is easily an S tier and is going to stay there, in my opinion, all the way up through to her expansion key. They had her kind of fall off once we got the other burn units like Pari and Shahua, but that's not good. I mean, as soon as she got her expansion key, I felt really bad for Pari because Pari kind of fell out of the burn team, and Sharkery shot right back up into it, in my opinion, just because of that expansion key alone. And I think that is all of the elite units. Now, I don't really know like all of the SR units very well. The only ones was Sharkery, which is an elite unit to me, and Senia, because she's really good on the burn team. Senia will fall off, in my opinion, later. But for now, she's on there. So I don't know really enough about the other ones to really give opinions on them. But they've all started to fall off. I mean, Cheetah's kind of another similar to Senia. I'd probably put her lower value than her, though. So I'll just go with her being more of a top of the B team. But I think pretty much all of the other ones here, I mean, they're just, these are your D tiers. I mean, with Klukai, a lot of fell off immediately. I mean, to me, everybody should be getting at least V0 Klukai for anything AoE, which just knocked Lada's value completely off. Latara has a decent common key for Klukai, but never really have used her, so I don't know enough about her. But I don't know anyone that does use her. Kind of same with Colfine. You don't need the healing that she can do. Krolek has the same problems Allred does with the melee, yet she's an SR and weaker than Allred. Nemesis is tricky. From everything I've seen, Nemesis is actually better than Mosen Nagant if you're bringing a sniper at this point. It makes me kind of want to change this here. Put her above Mosen Nagant on C tier, or her at the bottom of B tier. I'll just put her at the top of C tier over Mosen Nagant because she has more value in terms. If you've got a lot of the dupes and you've invested in Mosen Nagant and Nemesis, I think Nemesis takes the cake on that one. So I'll put her there at the top. And then Graza. I've never really heavily used her other than a damage dealer at the very beginning. I never really took into consideration all of her skills in that. But I know she does have some decent skills in her. She's a lot more valuable than a lot of these other ones on the bottom, but I'd still probably put her at the bottom at this point. And the music just changed, so it sounds like telling me I took too long doing this video, because that was a 30-minute, I think it was like a 20 or 30-minute BGM there. So it went to boss music now. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my thoughts on the tier list. I mean, you have Pride Win, you have Loot and Waifu's tier list. You can take this one to kind of take your thoughts in, maybe who you potentially want to pull in the future, or you want to go over on the reruns. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you like my content, if you could like, comment, and subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.